right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show is another crossover with my other podcast, Bird Road. I've got Q with me, and we are talking about the new Childish Gambino film, Guava Island. This was not a movie that was on the schedule initially, but the both of us love everything that this production team has made between Donald Glover, his brother Stephen Glover, and director Hiro Murai. And so when this thing just kind of came out of nowhere, it seemed like something that we should really cover. So this is a movie that was timed to correspond with Childish Gambino's Coachella set, and it came out direct to Amazon. It's only 55 minutes. It falls somewhere in this weird between range between a short film and a feature film, and it's interesting the way that they pulled this thing off. I mean, everything they do is pretty interesting, and you know, Atlanta is probably the best show on TV. The This Is America music video is one of the best music videos I've seen in years. And so it's no surprise that this is an incredibly interesting and unique film. So it was a lot of fun to talk about. So without any further ado, CQ, I can say that. Let's get on to the conversation. And as a reminder at the top of the show, I always tell you to make sure you're subscribed to Piecing It Together on any podcast app of your choice. You should also make sure you're subscribed to Bird Road as well, where we get into all kinds of politics and just joke around and have fun. So make sure to subscribe to Bird Road. You probably are subscribed to Piecing It Together, and I thank you for that. So let's get to the conversation about Guava Island. All right, so Q is back with us. He may be blowing his nose. I'll do my best to edit it out as much. but we both watched this new movie from Childish Gambino called Guava Island, which is available now on Amazon and was premiered during Coachella. And we wanted to talk about it. And so we weren't planning on this one, but here we are. And I think it'll be a fun talk.
This was not on your editorial calendar, is it?
It was not. It was not. And believe it or not, I've got an editorial calendar because I do a lot of planning for my podcast.
I lost you. Are you there?
No, I'm here. I was waiting for you to yell at me because I don't do a lot of planning with Bird Road.
Wait, set me back up because you cut out. So set me back up for that. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I actually have an editorial calendar. Because
fuck you!
I might just keep it like that whole play back and forth there.
Keep whatever you want.
So
yeah. The good news here is that Jewish Dave. I figured out the trick to get Jewish Dave to actually plan or do any research for an episode of Bird Road. It's to make it a crossover with Piecing It Together, and then he'll actually fucking pay attention to it and prioritize it in his life.
You should see all the articles I read and everything in preparation. I mean, I know a lot of
stuff. I haven't read any articles. I'm actually really interested to hear.
I'm just joking.
I thought maybe you did some research on the movie. This movie is a real like kind of mystery box movie. It's very allegorical and metaphorical, and I know that there's things behind it, there's meaning behind it. I just didn't really want to dig too deep into it. I kind of liked it I kind of really liked this movie just for what it was. I could tell that there was some allegorical and metaphorical meaning behind it that wasn't maybe immediately obvious. That if you go to, I don't know, if you read whatever, like if like Mashable or whatever, or The Ringer does like a write-up of it, they probably pick up on a lot of stuff that just the average viewer wouldn't. But I kind of just wanted to enjoy it on a superficial level.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it being kind of a movie and a music video collection at the same time, it does allow you to just enjoy it, like just totally surface level enjoy it. But I'm sure that, you know, knowing the people involved, especially, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of, layers to it and things that you could really read into it and look for throughout it. And I mean, it's so beautiful the way that they put this thing together. Every scene seems to be just so full of life. I'm sure there's plenty in there that you don't catch on the first time.
Well, they had pretty incredible access to the island of Cuba that I haven't really seen in pretty much in any other movie or TV show.
Right.
And I don't know if I don't know how that was negotiated and executed, but yeah, they showed just a really beautiful part of Cuba that was something else to watch. It was really, really pretty.
I think he basically said, "I'm Donald Glover. I get to do whatever I want in 21st century America." Well, Cuba too, but all right. Let's jump into some puzzle pieces. What do you got for your first one?
So the first one that I have is a little bit of a deep pull that I think some folks might know. It's 2000's Dancer in the Dark, which was a Lars von Trier movie. I don't know if you ever saw it or not.
I never did.
So it was starring Bjork and Catherine Deneuve, and specifically at the start of the movie, it has a scene where Bjork leads just like a percussive workplace, like on the factory floor dance scene that was evocative, and I have to think, I mean, to watch it, you have to think that Hiro Murai, who was the director of Guava Island, has to have seen this. There's just no way that it was just coincidence, because it was very similar to to it. It was just great. And Dancer in the Dark's a great movie, very musical movie. Obviously, it stars Bjork, and it has a lot of the same tones that that this movie has. I think it's about an Icelandic. It's like about this Icelandic immigrant who's working in a factory and trying to save up money while she's going blind. She's like slowly going blind, and she's trying to save up money for an operation, but the operation is actually for her child, who has the same degenerative condition that she does. So it's too late for her. She's trying to save up money before she goes completely blind. But yeah, I don't remember where I saw it. I saw it a long time ago on a DVD. I think maybe my wife might have gotten it or something like that from back when there were independent video stores where you could actually go discover shit like that. Yeah, so that's my first one, Dancer in the Dark.
I think also, yeah, I think also, and I've never really thought of that before, but I think she's probably just in general a pretty big influence on both Donald Glover and Hiro Murai. With their, I mean, they take music and go in like very unique creative directions, and I mean, who does that more than Bjork? I mean, but yeah, no, I like that. It's a good one. And I'm going to go with another music movie for my first one. It's something that we actually watched together, and neither of us really liked too much, but still I think it set the stage a little bit, and that is Beyonce's Lemonade. Which this is another, I guess you would say, quote unquote, visual album. But this movie is strung together by some of his most, popular recent songs, and they all, come together along with, a regular narrative to tell a story, and also being kind of blending that line between feature film and short film, and just kind of doing what works for the sake of the music and for the sake of doing something artistic.
Well, and I think that's a great one, and I think that I don't really know how to enunciate this the right way, but when I think back about Lemonade, I think about like the moment that it came out in. It was this sort of epoch of like the Obama era sociopolitical, ascendancy of very wealthy elite people who maybe hadn't been in those positions to be wealthy and elite before, and somehow we thought that like the Obamas of the world or the Beyoncés of the world were going to like somehow reflect our movement, or like the people's movement, and it was going to turn into something. It was that summer. Change. It was the summer right before the 2016 election. And I think everybody was like, wow, we're fighting against these regressive forces as a people. We're like, we have the first woman president is lined up. It's like all but guaranteed that she's going to be the president. It was just this really, I feel like now in hindsight, this very naive moment that we were existing in, that Lemonade came out in. And I think there are so many people that wish that they could just go back to that moment. And I kind of wanted to talk about this, and since we're crossing over a little with Bird Road, I guess we can. But I think that I think about what Donald Glover is and his body of work, and with this like sort of creative team that he's built with the aforementioned Hiro Murai, and I think it was Donald Glover's brother that wrote this movie,
right,
and has been a frequent collaborator. They have like that small set group that they work with, and they do incredible stuff. We're fans of it, but I wonder if it's ironic, and I think about Beyonce in the category of that sort of elitist culture that you consume, like the high end stuff that's made for the masses, but is virtual, but is signaling things that are virtually unattainable. And I think about that as I think about like Coachella, right? Because this movie, we should mention here at the top while we're still on our first puzzle pieces, this movie is a marketing campaign. This movie's not a movie that was released in the theaters. It was released sort of as an afterthought on Amazon Prime, and it was really made to coincide with Donald Glover's performance at Coachella. And I don't know maybe can you shed some light on what was the involvement of Beyonce where she pulled out of Coachella this year? There was something to do with that, right? Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
So I'm not sure, because I didn't think that was related. Like, I know that she did.
It's not related to this movie, but I know that,
Yeah.
that was a thing, right? She was supposed to be at Coachella.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I just wonder if there's an irony that this is sort of an expression. This movie is this like expression of disdain for the underpinnings of consumerism, and like this fight against the entanglements, and for it to be strategically aligned for like maximum marketing impact with Coachella,
the ultimate music festival,
the ultimate like
advertisement for everything,
apotheosis of consumerism. I mean, it's like the emblem of all the worst parts of like capitalism, elitism, bourgeois liberalism. Like, it's Coachella is what it is. And like, there are these people at Coachella who all paid like thousands and thousands of dollars for like glam encrusted, fucking VIP bottle service shit. They probably see themselves in the humble characters that they're looking up there as they're watching that movie, and they're like, "Oh, sweetie, that's you, and then this is me, and I'm Donald Glover. And you're just like Rihanna, and that's how we are." And they're probably like Googling on like the State Department website for like how you get travel visas to Cuba and like planning their next vacation. But the movie's message is like, I would guarantee, is probably mostly lost on them. It's probably like lost. Honestly, it's probably lost on anybody that can afford an Amazon Prime membership. Just having an Amazon Prime membership means that you're like a zealous, fully willful participant in like the production and the consumption dynamics of capitalism that, if you showed up, if the people who saw this movie at Coachella showed up in Cuba on a Sunday, not to ruin the ending of this movie, but spoiler alert, you got to see the movie. But if the people who saw this movie at Coachella showed up in Cuba on a Sunday and everything was shut down on Sunday because the people of the island were burying their friend, they would probably like want to speak to a manager and be infuriated by it. They would ask to speak to somebody's manager. At all. Yeah, this is not what I was told. I was told they'd be alive and that there would be fresh drinks.
Where's the dancing?
Where's the dancing and the music festival? Don't tell me I missed it. So I don't know. I just wanted to like
that is.
It's just, I don't know, and I don't know if like a guy like Donald Glover is doing that on purpose, if he's aligning this messaging like that on purpose, or if it's just literally the most preferred method of delivery for a piece of creative work. If you just have every avenue as a creator open to you, if you're just like, fuck it, let's do it on Coachella. Coachella's cool. Or if he seems like a guy who's smart enough to be able to recognize like, yo, Coachella is a big bag of shit. Let me like just set off let me just like kind of like make fun of them to their face a little bit. But again, I don't know if that's you bringing up Lemonade made me think of that, because Lemonade is that without the hint of irony, without the hint of
exactly,
like unironically, like, aspirational bullshit being shoved down your throat, telling you that you should be consuming and buying and that you need things, and that you're just this close to being that fully realized, fully actualized, strong, powerful woman. All you need to do is get these pumps and get that jacket and get this car, and you're like almost there. You're almost there, and then you'll be badass just like her. Anyway.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I think it's perfect, and I like to think that
piecing it together, listeners, if you're out there, subscribe to Bird Road.
Yes, absolutely.
Mash that Bird Road button.
More of this. More of this.
this.
No, I like to think that Donald Glover is in on this, and that we get it. But I mean, who knows? It's so hard to say.
So my next piece is actually sort of like when you guys will do the like larger genre, like a genre writ large, and I used a couple of examples, which are Blues Brothers, the original 1980s Blues Brothers, and Empire Records of 1995, which I cannot believe it's been 25 years since 24 years since Empire Records came out. That freaked me out.
That is so long.
But I'm putting this in the category or the genre of everything is leading towards the big show at the end movies, like the big concert movies, where it's like, are we going to be able to pull this off at the end?
Yeah.
And I love those kind of movies. And those were the two best. I mean, I don't think most people would agree with me that Empire Records was empirically a good movie. It's more like nostalgically a good movie, I think. And so I wanted to drop those two in there under the larger dome of the big. I mean, even like Wet Hot American Summer fits into this a little bit.
Sure, it does.
Blues Brothers 2000 fits into this.
It's funny. I was going to actually do this bucket as well, but I couldn't think of a really good, like, perfect one, and so I just kind of let it go. But I think those are good examples, and yeah, like you said, Wet Hot American Summer could totally fit that bill as well.
Yeah. So there you go. What's your next one?
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so let me go to my next puzzle piece. So I this one kind of goes along with Lemonade as well, and that is Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. But again, I'm going before I get into any of the substance of what the what the story is and what the setting is and all that, talking about mainly just the inspiration of stringing music videos together into some kind of a narrative, which I mean, Moonwalker is just it's so great for people who who loved that music at that time, and like it was just so larger than life, and putting those amazing songs together into this and it's kind of ridiculous at the same time as it genuinely is awesome. And I think Guava Island is taking some really great songs. I mean, these recent tracks from Childish Gambino are really great tracks, and fitting them together this way, I think they did a really great job of kind of capturing that same kind of thing. And then also to that same point, I mean, some of Childish Gambino's dance moves, I think,
very evocative of MJ. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Some of his
very influenced by Michael Jackson, I think. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Moonwalker, rare movie where the video game was better than it, though.
Yeah. Which video game? Because there was
Sega Genesis, Sega Genesis video game where you fight the zombies and all that stuff. And
I liked both of them actually, but yeah, I agree with you. The Genesis one's better than the arcade, but
absolute
rare occurrence of that.
Yeah. Which I guess I'll jump to my number 5 then, because I had 5, but I mean it goes part and parcel with what you just said, because mine is 1978's The Wiz, which is obviously, as most people remember, Sidney Lumet directed, starring Michael Jackson, Diana Ross, Nipsey Russell. Same thing, right? Musical score tying together the story, and I put this together because apparently I'm I like a lot of the singles that Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, I suppose, has come out with in the last 2 albums he's done. But what I read was that big fans of his say that this movie ties together themes of this movie is an actual sort of cohesive piece that brings together a lot of the themes from his last 2 albums, and the music was telling this sort of loosely connected story, and that these numbers weren't just they weren't just shoehorned in; they were actually intentional, and that this movie was an intentional narrative project that brought together these the music that he's been making. And from what I understand, there's really like two Childish Gambinos. There's the pre 2015 Childish Gambino, who was just kind of just another rapper that wasn't really that great. I mean, like I remember that Childish Gambino, and like he had a couple songs that were interesting or funny, but he was just,
I think he was most notable for like adding nerd culture into hip hop.
Yeah, he was like a discount version of Odd Future. I don't know if you ever got into Odd Future.
No, I never did.
Yeah, Odd Future, like that moment of like 2007, 2008, funny hip hop, nerd hip hop kind of coming out. You know, that was that moment, right? And he was one of that group of rappers that kind of had their moment during that time. But anyway, back to my pick, The Wiz. I mean, this was an incredible movie. In looking up this movie, it's actually not very highly rated. I can't believe that. I thought that this was like an AFI like top 100 movie or something, but apparently it's a lowly rated movie. I loved it. I remember loving it growing up, and it reminds me a lot of the sort of the whimsy and the fun. Stylistically, we always talk about, like, usually when I'm on this show with you, what I'll talk about is one that has like a similar tone or a similar style. It might not have the same story, which it doesn't. The Wiz doesn't have the same story, but the way that the Wiz was made felt a lot like it was like the warm tonality and the beautiful consideration that was taken into the presentation of the movie. I could see Hiro Murai being a kind of person who was, very influenced by Lumet.
Sure.
So yeah, I had The Wiz.
Absolutely. You know what's funny about The Wiz, before I move on to my next puzzle piece, is I didn't know about it growing up. I don't think I ever heard of it. And then I was in my second Michael Jackson phase. First when I was a kid, and then again when I was senior in high school, I think. And I found out about it, and I was like, holy shit, this exists? This is amazing.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I remember watching it, I don't know, when I was a little kid. It was one of those movies where I remember being 6 or 7 and just getting it from Blockbuster and just watching it 1,000 times. And I loved it. And you know what I loved at the same time? I had a phase where I guess I was into funny musical things. That and Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah.
I was just really into those two movies. I thought they were hilarious, and I don't know, I was maybe 7 years old, 8 years old.
So good. All right. Well, my next puzzle piece. Okay, I'm gonna go with the Before trilogy for my next piece.
Okay.
I wish there was more of this, but I felt like the scenes between Childish Gambino and Rihanna kind of gave off a little bit of that feel of just a very naturalistic relationship, and watching them walk around and just kind of goofing around with each other. And then once they break into song, of course things change a little bit, but it still has that that real sweetness and that real you really kind of feel their relationship. And
I read an article that said a review that said that the relationship between Glover and Rihanna was wooden, and I was like, are you fucking crazy?
Wow.
I was like, that's insane.
That's crazy.
And I feel like that's a person who's never been in a relationship.
Yeah, that's really strange. I was thinking about,
it felt so lived in. It felt like a real relationship. Yeah.
I was thinking about if this movie was a full-length feature, a solid 90 minutes, and I think I would prefer more of them than any of the other elements, any more songs or any of the thriller aspects that it starts to unfold into. Their relationship was really interesting and really well done, I thought. So that is pretty surprising to hear that.
I did not agree with that.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, one more point about the Before trilogy is also just how beautiful the scenery that they're walking through and their relationship is unfolding, before you is.
You should explain a little, because maybe not everybody immediately associates the Ethan Hawke vehicle, the three, before, but what
Sure.
that is.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's in the first one, Before Sunset, I believe. I always forget which one is which in the order, but in the first one, he meets Julie Delpy, and they're just talking and they get to know each other. And then through the course of these 3 movies, you're seeing like I think 2 decades of their relationship unfolding. And the whole movies like are basically just them walking around in various cities, and the cities are just beautifully captured, while their relationships are just beautifully captured as well. And so again, here we're seeing for portions of the short runtime anyway, we're seeing Childish Gambino and Rihanna just living in this just picturesque, amazingly beautiful part of Cuba, and just the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous in the way that it captures it all, and especially the the beach scene. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
The
how
beach scene is
beautiful it
stunning,
is.
and like
Yeah.
and the choreography that comes with it, and that musical number is great. Were you a big Slackers fan or no?
I only ever saw it once, like back in high school.
Yeah, it's so funny because like as Linklater would go on to make this trilogy that is so kind of well respected artistically and thought of so highly as Oscar bait type movies.
Uh-huh.
Um, that that trope of just like kind of following people along for a day.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was his first movie, but still, Slackers is where he started that, right? Slackers is where he was like, okay, we're going to follow around 20 weirdos during a day in Austin, Texas, and just see where their days lead them.
Yeah.
And he employed a lot of the same sort of directorial tricks, like kind of sharpening or honing his skills on that very lo-fi. I think Slackers was like one of those movies that cost virtually nothing to make.
Sure.
And then you saw a lot of those skills at play. I think maybe 5 or 6 years later, right? When he made the first Before movie, and then the subsequent 2 that came after that.
Absolutely. So what's your next puzzle piece?
So my next one is one that I saw in the theater, but I don't think I saw with you. I saw it years after it was in the theaters. It is probably the most critically acclaimed of Hayao Miyazaki's, the great Japanese animator of his incredible illustrious career. It was 2001's Spirited Away, which is by a lot of people considered to be the greatest animated film that's ever been made. It's the highest grossing Japanese movie ever, still to this day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the reason I picked it is more of a thematic reason. It was not a direct critique of capitalism per se, but it was a critique of Japanese culture and a critique of consumerism and consumption and production and sort of the dynamics that are behind capitalism, which I remember being very affected by the movie when I saw it, maybe, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something like that. And it's the character is sort of like living through the lead character, the young girl, is sort of existing in this world where the only thing that matters to the people around her are how much they're able to like stuff their faces filled with things. Did you ever see this movie or no? Is this one that you haven't seen yet?
I don't remember if I ever actually saw it. I mean, it's always been a movie that's been on my radar, and I feel like I did, but if I did, it was back when it was in the theaters.
It's one of those movies that like stays with you. You see it and it makes you think for a while, and it kind of messes with you a little while. And anyway, Spirited Away, 2001. It's again not a direct critique of capitalism. It's more of a direct critique of Japanese culture. The loss of tradition is a big theme in the movie. The loss of history and the things that had made Japan, in the estimation of Miyazaki, that had made Japan kind of what it was. The oldest country in the world. I mean, there's some debate between Japan and Egypt, which country is the oldest country, continuous country with the continuous borders on the planet. But Japan is a country that is steeped in history and has been, in existence forever. And to see industrialization, post-war industrialization, do what it's done to that culture and erode it in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s was very affecting for Miyazaki. And there's, I'm sure volumes and volumes of analysis written about this that I'm not going to get into, but But that is sort of a tacit critique of capitalism when you think about it, because that's what it is.
Sure.
It's these creatures shoving things into their mouths and eating. And at one point, the girl's parents turn into actual pigs from their gorging and their binging. So, yeah, that was my next puzzle piece.
No, it's great. That's great. And, it's funny, just to like touch on that, a little bit more about the capitalism. I was looking for some movies that, kind of were dealing with those kind of themes. And there's really far and few between. Like we kind of, obviously when we did our episode on Sorry to Bother You, like we were looking for movies that dealt with criticism of capitalism, and even
spoiler alert for my last puzzle piece, by the way. But
okay, cool. But yeah, no, it's like it's tough to find movies that deal with that.
Well, and that's not by accident. That's not by accident, Dave. I mean, if you think about it,
look at what Hollywood is.
Yeah, look at what Hollywood is. Look at what our culture rewards. Look at what we recognize and what we think the most about. I read somewhere where people were talking about how Donald Glover has this really unique ability to sort of nip at the hands of the corporate overlords who fund his creativity. Mm-hmm. So like he has this habit in a lot of the things that he does of like kind of taking a shot at the studio world or the world of Hollywood and still being endearing enough and just on its face making good enough creative work that it's he's not drummed out. But you have to think, man, we have this conversation before, and I don't know how much I've heard you guys talk about it sometimes on other episodes of Piecing It Together, but I don't know how much you really do. It's more of a on the Facebook page conversation, really. Mm-hmm. We don't like movies before like 1980. Like we don't really watch them because they just don't hold up. Like, let's call it what it is. And for all you film nerds out there that are going to come after me, fine. You can come after me if you want.
Everyone subscribe to the Criterion channel, even if we don't watch those movies.
Yeah. But like, come on. They don't hold up. Sit down and watch. Like, I tried to sit and watch the other day Chinatown, and I was bored in the first 30 minutes of Chinatown. And
it's actually on my list of movies to go back and watch.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it. I don't remember when. Like, in like the 90s, I probably watched it or something when I was like a teenager.
Right.
And so my point in bringing that up is that a lot of the kind of filmmaking that you were talking about, that would be a critique of capitalism, movies that critiqued capitalism, movies that were anti-establishment, were in that era. Mm-hmm. And then when the 1980s came, it was a resurgence for capitalism. It was a resurgence. It's where we love to see people transgress on film, or we love to see people go against the grain on film, right? We love to see the anti-hero, the tough guy, the square peg in the round hole, the person that isn't fitting in and is calling the whole system into question. But the polarity for that changed in like the 1980s, where that person became Gordon Gekko, that person became Tony Soprano, that person became a different, Walter White, somebody who was in the pursuit of money who was pursuing money in the larger, more noble pursuit of providing for their family, but society was sort of an afterthought, or society was the villain, right? We don't see characters like Donald Glover's Denny in this movie who are put forward as heroes who are willing to sacrifice their family and their life and their unborn child, who I don't think he ever actually finds out about, which is one of the tragedies in the movie. Sure. But who are willing to sacrifice those things for the society, right? Who are willing to put their life on the line to have that day off, that one Sunday off, so that everybody can have it. And but you're right, and I don't think it's by accident, dude, because that sort of that capital worship started hundreds of years ago, but really in modern media, it being sort of tied into as a virtue started in the 80s, which is when we started being culturally aware of movies that when we as kids, young kids, started deciding like, we like this, we don't like this, I like that, I don't like this movie. When we started making the movie selections that were going to, be our rewatchables for the rest of our lives, it was at a time when that was what the prevailing virtues were.
Interesting.
And it's not an accident, I don't think.
So do you think the young kids now, the progressives, are going to be making a different kind of movie going forward? Possibly.
I don't know. I feel like
it's hard to say.
It's hard to say because all that stuff is happening. All that shit, the creativity and the creative juice is all happening outside of Hollywood. So, who knows what direction it'll go in. Hollywood will just keep being like a place where every once in a while some little thing like this, what we're talking about today, will slip through the cracks. But mostly it'll be like, let's relaunch, I don't know, 101 Dalmatians or something. I don't know. For all I know, they might be doing that. But
a live action one?
Is there a live action?
I think there already was one, but yeah.
Okay. Let's revamp Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or something like that.
They are doing that right now with women. Moving on.
Let's move on.
Well, you were talking about movies that don't hold up, so that's a good transition into my next puzzle piece. Which, of course, overall, I like this movie, but I this is kind of a criticism. Elvis movies in general, which
okay. All right. I
don't know if I've ever actually watched Elvis movies, but my impression of them are that they just place Elvis in some pretty situation and then he ends up singing songs at some point.
Right.
And
yeah.
which is, if you really wanted to, you could kind of make the case for that's what this is. It's Childish Gambino looking pretty in a pretty location, and eventually ends up singing songs. I felt like that was a pretty good, pretty simple to make comparison, but one worth making nonetheless.
No, that's dead on. Actually, yeah, they just have this sort of magnetic energy to them where everybody in the movie loves them except for the villain.
Yeah,
and yeah. That's for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
That's hilarious. I wonder if I've ever actually seen an Elvis movie or if I'm just imagining what an Elvis movie is, but it seems like that's what it would be.
I don't think you would have ever watched an Elvis movie. I mean, I used to see them on TV back in the day. Trying to think of the big ones were Jailhouse Rock, right? That would be the big one.
All the beach ones, I can't think of the names, but
yeah, all the ones on Hawaii.
Like a lot of beach Hawaii ones. Yeah,
those are movies that did not age. Like if you watch them now, it's like watching
awful.
It's like watching gibberish. It's like watching a child. Dude. It's like watching a small child that you don't care about doing nothing. So I have a fifth puzzle piece, but I also have a little bonus one.
Okay.
So my fifth puzzle piece I already sort of alluded to. Sorry to bother you. You can go back into our catalog of piecing it together episodes, and also that was the last crossover that we did actually.
Yeah.
Again, anti-capitalist sentiment, a critique of capitalism, a critique of labor. This movie, Guava Island, focused heavily on it's actually distilled really well in one scene where Denny is walking into work after clocking in a few minutes late with one of his coworkers and saying, she asks him what's wrong with him, why is he so angry, and he basically says he's like, I'm angry because we are living in paradise and none of us even has any time to enjoy it,
right?
Or any time to enjoy it or the means to enjoy it. And the fact that they included the word means into that line makes me know, that's when I knew that it wasn't just an accidental critique of capitalism, that this was coming from a place where somebody, because that's a very loaded word in the world of socialism, in the world of anti-capitalist rhetoric, recapturing the means of production, having the means to, enjoy a just life, enjoy life with dignity. The word means was very not coded. It was a dog whistle. I knew that the writing of this movie was intentional. Sure. I knew that they were doing that. And it was nice. I was like, hell yeah. I feel like that in Miami all the time. Everybody here, it's this fucking grind culture, dude. Grinding, busting your ass. Like, you're proud of yourself that you worked through the whole weekend and that you didn't enjoy. You live in fucking Miami. Go outside. And yeah,
And all you can do is work, never enjoying it.
Exactly. And Sorry to Bother You had overtones of that, and I love that it was only just a few months ago. Unfortunately, I don't think that Sorry to Bother You made the blip or the ripple in the cultural conversations that people like you and I would have hoped it would have. Like, it kind of just came and went. And this movie, nobody's really talking about it. I personally think this is the best movie, Guava Island. We'll wait. I'll save it until we get to the part where you ask if I liked it. But I will say that I really like this movie a lot. And you know, they shared a lot of things. Hopefully, there can be like that is to say, Sorry to Bother You and Guava Island shared a lot of thematic elements.
Sure.
And hopefully more movies can touch on these things, because I like to see when those paradigms are challenged a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say Sorry to Bother You is kind of starting to enjoy a little bit of a cult status, I think. People are finding it. It seems like nobody saw it in the theater, but then ever since it's hit VOD, it is starting to catch on a little bit. And, hopefully that happens with this. Hopefully it becomes kind of like, more of a movie than just, something that was to coincide with Coachella. But it's great to see, these kind of criticisms coming up in movies. And I can't imagine that we're not going to see more of it, what with the politics of what's happening nowadays, and, with the way the progressive movement has gone and everything. So I would be shocked if we don't see more of it.
You know what strikes me? Is that how pernicious is this? How sort of like sinister is it that if you want to make a movie about, in the last 20 years, only recently, or as we talk about these two movies, more intelligent takes on this, or maybe more, more artful takes on this. If you want to write a movie about a character or characters that are like trying to challenge the accepted social requirements of how much you work and questioning like what really matters in life, it's in the last 30-40 years, that's a stoner movie, or like or a slacker movie, it's Dude, Where's My Car, right? Like, you can't, the characters have no inherent virtue, and like they're predisposed as they're like set up as being wrong. These characters are dipshits and losers and assholes.
Idiocracy is the smartest movie of
right.
the last couple
decades. I don't know. Anyway, that just strikes me that, you can't make, or for many years, that in the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, the aughts or whatever, you couldn't make a movie where the main character is like, man, let's hang out on the beach all day. I guess maybe Ferris Bueller, right? Like, where's the movie where the slacker or the person who's advocating to work less and tone it down and just enjoy life a little bit more is positioned as Baloo in the Jungle Book? I guess, like, I'm literally grasping at straws. Like, Ferris Bueller, Baloo in the Jungle Book, and I don't know. That's it.
I got no other ones for you. I mean, you're absolutely dead on. Peter from Office Space, is that his name? Peter.
Peter, yeah. But even still, a third of the way in the second act of the movie, he recovers and he quote unquote realizes that he was wrong.
That's
and that
true.
He wants to go back to his life as like the hypnotism or whatever wears off. So even in the Mike Judge world of, late 90s critique of the workplace, even still, work is still exalted. Like, being a productive cog in the workforce is still exalted, and the deviant behavior is what happens in the first act.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't want to go down a whole fucking hole here, even though I think we have.
Yeah, right. All right. Well, I got one more puzzle piece, so I'm gonna go with that right now, and that is another music movie. It is Inside Llewyn Davis, and the reason I bring this up is it's a movie in which a musician's talent is undercut by the powers that be really only being interested in money And um, then also along with that, I figured the kind of melancholy tone to it, because even though there's such beauty and happiness to the island, there's that undercurrent of melancholy, like that's just through the whole film, just knowing that there's something wrong, there's something that's going to be wrong on the island.
That's a dead on one. There's like I'll always remember from that movie. That's not one of my favorite Coen Brothers movies, although so many people love it that I will allow that it is probably one of their best movies. That so many people who I know whose opinion on Coen Brothers catalog I respect,
Mhm.
seem to all agree that that's a. I have that for me in the sort of second tier of Coen Brothers movies,
Mhm.
but even that is good. So, but what'll always stick with me about that movie is just the sort of sad when he arrives in Chicago and he finally is able to secure a meeting with the producer, or the booking agent that he's trying to get to, that he went through all this effort to get to, and just the look in his eyes and in his face when Oscar Isaac's Llewyn Davis is singing that song, trying to just like when what's behind it and what's happening, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the sadness and the futility behind it, and he is rejected, right? Because why wouldn't he be? Why would he just
I don't
show
see
up?
any money here.
Yeah, I don't see any money here. That is like a dead
Oh my
ass,
God.
right on the point. Yeah. Um yeah, that's a great one.
And it's F. Murray Abram of all people.
Right, yeah.
But yeah.
So my little bonus puzzle piece is another music industry movie. But this one is probably, I don't think anybody saw this, but you can find it out there on YouTube. It's free. It's a short. It's a 25-minute short film. The first directing credit by Hiro Murai, that he also did with Donald Glover, and that was also had Chance the Rapper in it back in, I think this was in 2014. It's called Clapping for the Wrong Reasons. And you can watch that. I would recommend everybody watch that movie. It's a 24 or 25-minute short film that's out there that'll give you a sense, again, like we were talking before about Richard Linklater, seeing the first inklings of what a director or a creator, or in this case, a creative team, is going to be, seeing them sort of like stretch and work and figure themselves out in this, and then see it sort of come together in a more fully realized thing, like Atlanta is, or like this movie Guava Island is. The thing about this movie that I thought was interesting is that they all play themselves, basically. Like he's playing Donald Glover. He's there. It happens during the course of one day on a in a what looks to be like, when like a studio will put up a bunch of rappers and their producers, they'll put them up in like a $10,000 a month house in the Hollywood Hills or something,
Right.
and they'll just have them produce there. They'll just like, they just bunker up and they just make like an album. It's one day in that life of these guys sort of playing music and exploring music and fucking around with each other. It's not pegged to any plot. Nothing is happening, and at the end of the day, nothing happens, and they just it's just another day of them making music, and it's beautiful. It's thoughtful. It's not quite there in terms of the artfulness that they achieve in Guava Island, which is, I think, a triumph. But you can see where they're going, and for them to have gotten there in 5 years, I mean, this is a 2014 short film that's half the length of this Guava Island movie. I think it's admirable, and for them to have the best show on television right now in that short period of time,
Without a doubt.
yeah, that's incredible. Anyway, check it out. Clapping for the Wrong Reasons. It's on like YouTube. You can just go watch it.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I'm definitely going to check it out, because I've loved or liked at least everything that this team has done, and so definitely I need to check that out. All right, well, let's do the finished puzzle, then we'll get into our closing thoughts. So, finished puzzle for Guava Island includes Dancer in the Dark, Lemonade, Blues Brothers, and Empire Records, and other movies that lead towards a big concert. Moonwalker, The Wiz, the Before Trilogy, Spirited Away, Elvis movies, Sorry to Bother You, Inside Llewyn Davis and Clapping for the Wrong Reasons. So, you know, basically, when it comes down to it, it sounds like you really loved this movie. I liked it quite a bit. I do wish there were some elements of it, like I talked earlier about the relationship, how much I liked it and wanted more of it. You know, I don't really know why they didn't go an extra, like why did it have to be 50 minutes and why they couldn't have just made it a full length feature?
Why couldn't it have been a duet? Why the hell couldn't it have been a duet?
Yeah,
It's
and why couldn't they have
Rihanna.
done a duet? Yeah, exactly.
It's
You have
Rihanna.
Rihanna in the movie. I mean,
Look, I
yeah.
think that as we talk about things like, you know, the as I think cynically about the production of art like this, I think about it that there was probably an entire team of, you know, public relations and marketing and advertising people that were approaching the production of this movie as as basically a promotional campaign,
Mhm.
right? This movie was about elevating the Donald Glover Childish Gambino performance uh at Coachella, and that probably hindered it, frankly, because it was made for that crowd, it was made for them to see, and it was made to play. I mean, even to the structural, even to just to the basic, the fact that they had it on 4:3 so that it would fit the screens at Coachella
Right.
was
Yeah.
like, I mean, from your house or from your computer, it just looks like an artistic choice, but it was also a practical one, because this was a specific thing that was made for a specific moment in time.
Sure.
And it trickling down to those of us peons and poor people who couldn't afford a $5,000 fucking, you know, jewel encrusted lanyard front row pass to Coachella. You know, we weren't the target for this movie. Okay.
Right.
Which kind of sucks, right? Especially if you're like me and you hold these particular creators in such esteem. But I would love to see if this is able to, if the creative team is able to break free of this formatting constraint and do something different, something like an hour, 40 minutes that, look, I told you on the night that I was watching this Sunday night, I watched it after Game of Thrones. I liked this more than I liked Game of Thrones. I liked this more. I liked this more than I liked any movie that I've seen since probably First Reformed. And I thought it was incredible. It had potential. They didn't dive too deep. I think that we are, as consumers of movies, poisoned a little bit, because what would happen if Hollywood had gotten its hands on Guava Island is that it would be a 3-part, you know, it would be 3 movies and they'd each be 2 hours long. And we would know every single fucking thing about every character's backstory. We never find out very much other than the animated intro about how the two got to know each other. And we're just asked to sort of, you know, just accept that on faith.
Sure.
And I think that's great. That's fucking great. I'll take that all day. So yeah, I guess my point would be, but my only other thing I would want to say is that speaking of Game of Thrones, anybody who watched season 2 of Game of Thrones remembers Nonzo Anozie. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing this name. Not a huge part as Red Cargo, but he played it huge, and he was great. Just like, I don't know what you call it when an actor has like a thing where they are able to be like so sort of friendly and jovial but menacing at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
he was one of the best parts of the movie. I thought he was incredible.
Absolutely. He was really, really great. He was terrifying, but just so happy, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave him way more to work with than they did in Game of Thrones. He was a pretty big character for season 2 of Game of Thrones, and you're led to believe that he's killed at the end of the season 2 of Game of Thrones. He's locked away in a fucking vault and left to die. So
Nice.
and he never comes back, so he's probably dead. Then the other thing I wanted to mention for a parting thought is, damn, I'm glad that they didn't try to put on fake accents or do island accents or anything like that.
Yeah, Donald Glover's voice went in a couple different directions at times.
But notice it was only when there was something very interesting going on in the cast of the extras of that island. There was something very specific. There were Spanish speakers, there were Creole speakers, there were French people speaking French, and there were people speaking English. And there were Bahamians, there were people of I think that to the typical person who hasn't lived the last 15 years in Miami, interacting with a lot of folks like this, that who maybe come from places like Dominican Republic, Haiti, who come from different islands in the Caribbean, you don't notice this nuance, but they created this really magical, beautiful world where they just didn't even bother asking you to suspend your disbelief. They were just like, a bunch of Caribbean people are existing on this fictional Guava Island together. And they have their own languages and their own accents and their own culture that has overlaps, right? Because a lot of Caribbean culture does overlap. And they were just like, here it is. These people are all together. Whenever Donald Glover was interacting with somebody who spoke Spanish, he would say gracias. Whenever he was interacting with somebody who spoke Creole, he would interact with them on that level. And it was very quick passing, pleasantries. But that was an intentional choice, I think. And I think it was a really cool one that helped build that world and make it bigger. That, especially in the opening scene where he's running through the streets and he's interacting with all these different people. And if you are experienced enough, having lived around Caribbean people, you know that they're as varied as the people of America. They're like, the difference between a New Yorker and a Texan, it's completely different people. And they represented a lot of them. And you just felt it in the very small, those little moments when they would exchange pleasantries. You felt it. And it was cool.
One last point, because you just mentioned real quickly about that opening scene of Donald Glover running through the street. This movie made me realize that Donald Glover runs a lot. He's basically, he's like Tom Cruise. Like, he's always running in every single thing he's done.
He's also like me. He's slew-footed, which makes me hopeful that
that's what I always say about you, is that you're slew-footed.
I'm slew-footed. Wait, you always say that about me?
I didn't even know that was a phrase. I didn't know that was a thing. I learned something on this episode. So this is obviously also going to be on Bird Road, but do you want to, for the Piecing It Together listeners, plug Bird Road and plug anything?
Yeah, so it's Bird Road. What? It's Bird Road. Else. No, we got a show coming up on oh my god, I had a dream. I had a dream about our May 8th show that's going to be at Lifehouse on in Little Havana here in Miami. So there's nowhere to get tickets. Just show up and be there. But it's going to be at 7:00 Wednesday, May 8th, in Little Havana. I had a dream that you just decided to come because Jewish Dave's not going to be at that show. If you're not, if you're looking to see Jewish Dave there, then I don't know, I can FaceTime with him or something like that, and you can talk to him. But he's not going to be there. Just don't want to set expectations that can't be met. But I had a dream.
Someone wants to buy me a plane ticket.
I had a dream that you just decided at the last minute. But the funny part about the dream is that you were weirdly, I don't know how to put it. You were weirdly aggressive. You were weirdly you said something along the lines of yeah, I know you're trying to do this show without me. And yeah, sorry, I'm coming. Like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I really want you here. And you're like, whatever. We'll talk about it when I get there. And I was just like, what? Why do I feel like I have a second wife all of a sudden giving me a hard time about shit? I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Was I acting like I'm like some big shit or something?
No, it's not that you were acting like some big shit.
I was mad.
You were mad because I think you were behaving like you thought that I had been working to keep you at a distance from participating in the show. And you were like, there's two Daves in Bird Road, not just one. How about you? You got anything to promote? What else can people hear on the Bird Road? What else can people hear on the Piecing It Together feed, Dave?
Well, it's funny we're talking about anti-gun capitalism and all that stuff on this episode because we've
funny. We're talking about it
because we have an episode on Dragged Across Concrete coming up this week as well.
That's a Trump movie, right?
Yeah, it's.
I'm waiting for that to go free.
Very conservative movie. So
I'm waiting for that to go free to be free.
It should be soon enough, I'm sure. Yeah. I'll definitely keep an eye on our Twitter. I'll let you know. But we got two very movies that deal with political issues. So that's coming up on Piecing It Together.
I know you have to do, because in the modern podcast media cycle, like you have to have that Avengers movie up by like Friday morning.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to happen. I have thought
if it takes longer than like 12 hours, it's old news. You can't.
Yeah. Well, I've thought about doing it in parts because that way, actually, one of our frequent co-hosts is actually going to be in Vegas. Ryan Daugherty, who's actually been on Bird Road as well. So he's actually going with me. So we could always maybe record right after we see it and post like at least part of the episode up, and then maybe do it in pieces. That could be fun.
I think you have to throw down the gauntlet, not to. Damn, I honestly did not even mean to make that pun, but you have to throw down the challenge. How about that? The
Infinity Challenge.
That nobody can use any Marvel or superhero movies. No Marvel.
Yeah, I think I did that on the last one, didn't I? On the
I don't remember
the Infinity War episode. I think I said no Marvel movies. I allowed other comic book movies, but no Marvel movies.
I'm gonna do the next Piecing It Together I do, which I guess will be that one because I'm sure you'll have me on for that. Will be like only pornos.
This episode of Piecing It Together is brought to you by the Truth Be Told Hip Hop Podcast. Although a fairly simple premise, what makes the show compelling is the camaraderie shared among the hosts, Big UU, Rifa, and Black Todd. The casual and unstructured format of the show is akin to an organic conversation, the kind that hip hop fans usually have with each other. With plenty of strong opinions and off-the-cuff rants and debates. Add it to the different backgrounds of each host, and what you're left with is a good and entertaining mix of personalities and perspectives all in one place. Subscribe now to the Truth Be Told Hip Hop Podcast on your favorite podcast player. All right, so that does it for Piecing It Together and Bird Road this week. You can subscribe to both of these podcasts on your podcast app of choice. You can follow Piecing It Together on social media at PiecingPod, and you can follow Bird Road at Bird Road Podcast. So that about does it for today. I also want to remind you to make sure to join our Facebook group, Piecing It Together, a movie discussion group where the conversation about all these movies continues. And I think that does it, really. I think let's keep this outro brief. I think let's jump into some music. Why not, right? We'll be back in a few days anyway with another episode on Dragged Across Concrete. So we got lots of Piecing It Together coming up. So let's leave you guys with a piece of music. And as some of you know, I've produced a few hip-hop artists over the years. And there's this one artist named Skydro who had an album called Success Stories that I produced. And I feel like this one track off the album, I Want to Get Away, which was like kind of one of the standout tracks on the album, I think it would fit in a movie like Guava Island. So why don't we play that? So this is I Want to Get Away by Skydro from the album Success Stories. And this is something I produced about 10 years ago now, 9 or 10 years ago. And it's a cool album. And you can find it out there on Spotify and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So enjoy it, and we'll be back soon with more Piecing It Together.
Don't you want to get away? I want to get away. Real man. Just imagine. I must dream. I want to get away. Don't you want to get away? I want to get away. Let's just get away. I want to get away. Don't you want to get away? I want to get away. Let's just get away. Picture a missing page, stolen by the devil. and buried in history's grave. To make all the ghetto children born in the future all become Babylon's slaves, with modern translation including minimum wage. Born with subliminal rage and incarcerate those that's in cage. When other voters decided America wants change. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I'm at ground zero, getting on my knees, praying in the name of the Prince of Peace, asking Almighty God, please open these gates and set me free. I wanna feel the island breeze, steady counting G's, sipping pina colada, chilling in the sauna, feeling like Obama. Yes, and in 2009 deal with the drama, just about to write the new world order. It goes with the ashes of heroes, cause survive and get a life and survive in ground zeros. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. Yo, these are the tales of the dead man walking. He knows it's the devil that stalks him. It's Jesus walking on water. Yo, and he keeps on walking, keeps on talking. Hear the dogs barking, but with God I'ma defy death. I'm like 007 in my private jet. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away. I wanna get away. Don't you wanna get away? I wanna get away. Let's just get away.
And all points west.